In today's class, we are going to see how to write literature review in journals. Okay, your topic will be about your how to write okay your uh, literature survey in journals. So this is our topic. In this topic, see, there are three ways to write your literature survey in your journal. Methods, three methods. You can say it is chronological order. It is chronological, three methods. It's a chronological order. Then the second one is that your methodological order. Methodological order. Okay, they used to call it as chronological order or methodological order. Okay, and the third one is that your thematical order. The third is that your uh, thematical order. Okay, this is called thematical order. See, when you talk about chronological order, it's very important that where to write, how to write, and all those things. And that we'll discuss in further sessions. Before going for chronological order, is that when you talk about chronological order, okay, you should take the papers in year wise. For example, you have to start from 10 years, 2015 to 2000, what I can say, 2020. See, in that span of year, how a particular area of research has been developed. In that way, you have to explain your literature review. You have to write that 2015. It should be an order. And it should be an ascending order, not in the descending order. It means that you have to start from the 2015 and 2016, 17, in the year wise, how far the growth was there in that particular time of that particular research, what you have taken has to be discussed. It means that if at all I do something about quantum computing, or if I take EEG, say EEG sensors. In EEG sensors, you have to collect totally 2015 to 2020 all the papers, in those papers, okay, and all those papers, how far the research was happening, how far the research moved in that particular area, how far the research has been, and research has been made in that particular area. And that is going to be discussed in your chronological order. When you talk about methodological order, okay, when you talk about the next thing is that your methodological order. I'll just jump on to your methodological order. When you talk about your methodological order, you have to discuss only the methods adapted, adapted to your particular, what I can say, area of work. That has to be discussed. See, if for example you adapt some method, okay, and that method has to be explained how it is being used in your area. For example, if you talk about wavelet transform is going to be used in your method, you have to discuss what are the other methods are there. One entirely you have to talk about only the methods, not other than that methods, not other than the methods has to be discussed. And that is very important. Okay. When you talk about the methods, see now I'll give a small example. If I do something with EEG sensors, okay, now in EEG sensor I'm going to apply wavelet transform, and that is one method or algorithm. See, all my literature papers should talk only about the transforms applied in EEG. In that way, you have to collect your papers, then you have to write it in your, then you can write it in your journal. This is how you can go for your methodological order. Okay. See, we will discuss about elaborately what you, how do want to follow your methodological order and all those things, where to follow and all those things. Okay. Where to follow, how to follow, and all those things we'll discuss. But still, when you talk about methodological order, this is the way you have to put it. Now, if you go for the thematic order, see, thematic is a theme, a content, okay? Theme-based papers, okay? Theme-based papers. See, for example, I'll just put it in a simple way. Thematical order, I'm just going to give an example. In ECG, I'm going to find out EEG sensor, two EEG sensors, okay, EEG sensors. I'm going to detect virtual working memory. Okay, virtual working memory. I'm just going to see how far a human is going to have his virtual working memory. It is called virtual working memory assessment by using EEG sensor. Now, I have, this is my theme. This is my theme. Now, for this theme, how many people have done in that same area? You cannot see some papers working on that virtual working memory because it will be a novel one. You would have tried it, but they theme base is that now it actually the entire theme works on neurology, okay, neurological orders, neurological disorders. So you can just talk about the papers which talks about neurological disorder, and that is how the theme works. Now I'll take one simple example how to classify your chronological order, methodological order, and thematical order. I'll just make it in a simple statement. Now I have my ECG, okay. See, I have my ECG now. Sorry, EEG or ECG, any sensor, EEG sensor. I'm just going to do with my EEG sensors. Okay. Now, if I want to, now I want to classify how to classify on year basis, and then how I want to classify this with your chronological, methodological, and thematical. Now, this is how I want to classify it. EEG sensors. Now, if I do my paper, now this is my concept, now this is my entire area. Now, if at all I want to do this, now if my area is talking about how the sensors are location, see, based on sensor location, I am going to discuss my paper. If that is the case, now you can take all history how they have located the sensors previously in ECEG. Because the EEG sensor, you can take history. What do you mean history? You are going to talk about the history of your EEG sensor base. In that history, you are going to say that I am going to keep my EEG sensor on ears. Okay, you can keep your ears. In ears, you can locate it. So far, they kept in head. Now, you can analyze how many leads are there, how many leads are reduced, how many people have changed the electrode. From ear-wise, you can see the developments and types and modules of sensor. In that case, you have to go for only your chronological order. When I am using that same, my paper is going to talk only about, okay, the fuzzy logic applied for ECG signal feature extraction. Fuzzy logic. Okay, now my paper is going to talk about fuzzy, or I'm going to talk about CNN. Then I want to talk only about the methods in the literature survey, not that history. Because my aim, it depends upon your core idea of your paper. Actually, what is the core idea? It is your keywords. See, the keywords plays a here very important role. See, the keywords, from the keywords, okay, if your keywords depends upon your methodology, okay, your abstract depends on more on methodology, then my paper, review paper should be only on methodology. Now, my core area want to detect some neurological disorder, okay, disorders, okay, from disorders. Now, my literature survey should be only in the disorders, only in the disorders. So, I can give simply one particular area, ECG. I classified that ECG in 3 modules. Okay, if my research is going to have a designing or something like that, my focus is based on my developments in the sensor, then I have to go for what I can say chronological order. If you are talking with your core paper, your idea of your paper is going to be with some method, you are focusing on method, for example, feature extraction or something like that, differentiation. And by the time you have to talk all your methods in your literature survey. And then if you are going to do something on thematic, your theme is that I want to identify some neurological disorders. In that case, all your literature survey should be in your thematical disorders. I mean that theme, okay, theme based paper. So it all depends upon your type of research. Okay, now if you want to combine, for example, you want to say that how fuzzy logic was being tuned. Okay, fuzzy logic has been tuned in particular area. Even method in even this methodology order also you can apply your chronological way of writing. See fuzzy logic, how fuzzy logic was used. Universally it was used as fuzzy logic. C means of clustering, and then K means of clustering. Then fuzzy logic you can write it, but the thing is that you want to talk only about the methods, but you are trying to make it from the year wise 2020 to 2015. But here when you write your methodological based order, it is very important that you have to start from ascending. You can apply your chronological order in methodology also. You can apply your chronological order in thematic, but methodological you cannot apply in thematic, and methodology cannot apply in your thematic, cannot be applied in methodology. I think you can able to understand very clearly is that either I can follow okay, a chronological order, I can follow methodological order, I can follow thematical order. Sometimes there will be a confusion, when your paper is like this. For example, I'll just take one EEG sensor. Okay, I'm just going to have an EEG sensor. Now EEG sensor I'm going to apply with wavelet transform. Okay, then after wavelet transform I'll go for feature extraction. Okay, I'm going for feature extraction, and finally what I'm going to do, I'm just going to talk about your detection of neurological disorder. If I have neurological disorder, if this is the case, okay, finite element analysis and neurological disorder, if this is the case. Now when you talk about you have designed a new location, for example, you also did some location, all are having its own novelty. Previously EEG sensors will keep more than 128 sensors in head. Now you are going to have two electrode sensors. If that is the case, if two electrodes are kept, and in that case, I'm going to talk about how I'm going to talk about the literature. You will be confused. Now you can make your highlighting point. Now in this case, because your electrode comes under what I can say new development. In that case, you have to talk about chronological order. And in wavelet, you are going to use a new wavelet. For example, you are going to have dyadic wavelet transform. It is also new. And in feature extraction, you are going to use SVM. Sometimes you can make different algorithms. And your neurological order, you are going to identify hallucination. Hallucination is a disorder. Okay, hallucination. Okay, and if you are going to talk about hallucination, then in that case, there starts a problem whether my literature survey should go for chronological order, whether my literature survey is going to talk about thematical order. Now you can do one thing for this. If you can split your literature survey in 3 sections. Okay, literature survey in 3 sections. You can divide your paragraph, not in sections, by giving title, because later work they never expect your titles. In turn, your paper, few papers you're going to talk about what I can say development of ECG. Now, for this paper, for example, 5 papers, that has to be followed with chronological order. And then when you're going to take a literature survey, you're going to talk about your method, your DA transform plus your feature extraction. Then you can go for methodological order. Okay, you can go for methodological order. And then when you are talking about hallucination, some papers in hallucination, you can go for thematic order. No way that when you talk about hallucination, this is neurological disorder. In that case, you can use your thematical order. See, it means that particular para should have year-wise what I can say year-wise developments. Methodological order, it should only talk about method. The paragraph should talk only about the method, nothing else. By that time, you should not talk about the sensor, because the reader will be confused, the reviewer will be confused. So that is very important. And when you talk about identification of a particular disease, by that time you have to use your thematic. Every paper should talk only about that particular disease identification. By that time, you should not say something about what I can say your sensor has been changed in here. That will totally collapse your what I can say your coherence. It means that the parallel thinking of the reader will be collapsed. Okay, you can combine it, but no doubt you cannot combine in a paragraph that methodology. If you write a paragraph, now you're going to write a paragraph. In that paragraph, I cannot use chronological and methodological. If at all your para wants to talk about methodological, you have to talk only methodological. That para should contain only methodological base. not combining methodology. 50% of the para should talk about chronological and 50% with your methodological. It is not accepted. It is not accepted in the publication. It will really collapse the reader. That is what, without knowing this, we will keep on have some papers according to your wish. We will keep on write that fellow has done like this and this fellow has done this. For example, I'll give one example. What is that? If you take one paper, for example, you take ECG in wavelet. If you have EEG in wavelet, and then next paper EEG in identification your sleeping disorder. Now you are writing. We are going to write a paragraph. In this paragraph, both these will enter here in a paragraph explaining about in your related work. Okay, this is what wrong when you write your paper. Okay, if at all you want to write it about the theme, you talk about the theme. Entire full paragraph should talk about the theme. The entire full paragraph should talk about the method and methodological order. Your entire paragraph should talk about the chronological order. This is the way you have to make your papers to be done. And that is very important when you write your literature survey. When you write your literature survey, when you write your literature survey, a very important thing is that whether you want to write it in a part of theory or when you want to write it in the tabular column. That is very important. Okay, and when you talk about very important thing is that when you talk about this, how to write this, what I can say, thematical order, whether it is whether it is a methodological order or whether it is a chronological order. How to write this? Either there are two ways. Okay, you can write your literature survey in tabular column. Okay, tabular column. And then you can write it as what I can say. You can write in paragraph. Okay, in paragraph. Okay, in that is the case. When to select this? See, normally literature survey. Normally reviewers nowadays reviewers are not interested to read others' work, because previously literature surveys, previous days the literature survey was previously the literature survey was what I can say, previously the literature survey was a very big thing, because they don't have facility to understand where these particular topics are there and all those things. But nowadays, everybody is having their internet facility. Previously, they may not have the facility to read the textbook, something like that. You will go for some what I can say. You don't have more open access, and you cannot see more papers outside. Nowadays, all the papers are outside. No need to read the literature survey. Only one thing is that even in review, when you get the review comments now. They will just see that according to your work, any papers are cited. It's not that, and they never read that. They are not interested nowadays, because it's a fast world. They want to understand what is your work, not about others' work. But still, there are two things to be considered. See, so since it is not been highly, what I can say, read by the people, most of the people, they never want to see that area. In that case, why do you want to write in a paragraph? And you also take more time when you write in a paragraph. So if you want to do this, you better go for tabular column. Okay, and sometimes you need to go for a graph, because when the area is familiar area, it is now I'm going to talk about EEG sensors. Everybody knows about EEG sensor. Nothing is there to talk about the EEG sensor in paragraph. Now, when I want to talk about the EEG sensors, okay, EEG sensors in ear, okay, in ear. Are EEG sensors in lobes, not in the head. It is going to be in the forehead. In that case, nobody knows that. Everybody thinks that EEG means it should be covering the head, not in the forehead. The sensors will not be there in the forehead. Sometimes EEG, if I'm going to keep it below your chin region, you can collect your EEG also. In that case, I have to go for paragraph, because if you put it in the neck, they will not have an interest. I can put it in a simple way. When to write a paragraph, it is a not a well-known area. It's a new area. If I'm going to talk, for example, if I'm going to talk nano EEG sensors. Now, if I want to talk about nano EEG sensor, now I have to go for the paragraph. Okay, obviously I want to go for the paragraph. Of course, EEG itself, you have to go paragraph. Something beyond that. I'm just giving an example. And if, for example, if I take some other sensor, now if I take MEM sensor for EEG. Now I want to go only with the paragraph because that paragraph will give an elaborate idea. Whereas when I talk about EEG sensor for detecting a disease, for example, everybody knows the disease. Nothing is there. Now I can make it as a tabular column. Okay. Now I can make your tabular column EEG sensors. Okay. Now I can make it EEG sensors, and I can say that what is the sensor type and what is the location, and I can make a tabular column like this, and what is the algorithm they have used, and then a very important thing is that you can put your advantages and disadvantages. Okay, now I can make it as a tabular column. Okay, and before this, I can add one more column here. And why? Because it needs a very important thing to be referred is that this area will talk about only the author and year. For example, Sankar, and I can put slash, I can put what I can say 2019. See, this is very important because this particular year is going to reflect that your area is still in what I can say it's still in research. So that they'll try to expect from the literature review. So you are making a separate column and you are making that particular column stating that, or I can put it in this way also, reference number 1. I can put it in this way, reference 1 / 2019. This is very important. Year is 19 because the important thing which they are trying to expect from your literature is that whether any latest paper related to your area is very important. That you are going to reflect in the tabular column. See, other things are very common. Everybody knows about it. Whenever the area is very new for people, and sometimes if your research is in any other different, what I can say, fields are included. For example, now I am going to do something with EEG sensors. Okay, EEG sensors plus, okay, and EEG sensors plus you are going to use some what I can say polymer technology. Okay, polymer technology. Now polymer technology. Now this relates with ECG is the biomedical area, and we are going to do with the polymer, which is going to be related with the printing technology, and it will be relating with chemical people. In that case, you have to go for your literature survey in paragraph. Then only they can understand. If you put it in a tabular column, really people will not understand. Okay, and your paragraph your paragraph is once again. Your paragraph is required here. Okay, your paragraph is required. Okay, because it's a new area. Okay, you want to give from the scratch about the explanation how others have done, and that is very important. And now you understand how to use. Now, how do you want to write? What is that you are expected from your review process? Okay, what is that they are expecting from your literature review? What do you mean by that literature review? It is not there to say what they have written. See, now you understand what are the methods you have to follow when you write your literature review. I think you are very clear in your literature review and types of literature review and all those things. I think you have got it very clear idea. Now, very important thing is that what is that expected in your literature survey? What is the mistake you do in your literature survey? What is the mistake you do in your literature survey? Normally, what people will do, researchers, what this particular paper, for example, this is the related one, reference 1. See, not that what they have done, what they have done, not to be in your paper. This is your paper. Okay, this is your article. It should not be in your paper. This is the wrong way. Okay, in turn, what is that thing you have taken from this paper for your research? What is that you have taken from this research for your research? Okay, you can able to validate your points through by referencing. That is what the thing. See, for example, I say that I'm going to use my EEG sensor is made up of what I can say a copper material. Okay, your copper material plus some other silicon and something like that. I'm just going to mix it. Now somebody has to refer whether somebody has used CU in your previous paper. Now somebody has referred CU can be used. They have taken some result. In that case, you can use it. At the same time, the 50%, it is a new thing what you are going to define. So you have to say very clearly that if you take one particular method, you have to justify that this method already done by this fellow. and that fellow has got this much of research. In that way, you have to put it your literature. Not that entire thing, what that paper is being done, what is the result has to be discussed here. See, everything I can make it in a simple nutshell is that keep all your writings related to your keywords. Your literature survey should always look into your keywords. That is the importance for keywords. The keyword should be maintained in your literature survey. For example, my keyword is that EEG sensor design, okay, and EEG sensor design, and then EEG, okay, wavelet transform, okay, and EEG, okay, EEG. Neurological disorder. Now, my literature survey should talk only about the papers, how they are applied from other papers, okay, and what is their motivation when they apply. That is how you have to deal with. And all these things should be related to their core area. It means that I can make it a very simple. Still, I can make it in a very simple way. For example, my block diagram is like this. Okay, EEG sensor. Now this EEG sensor is developed with copper plus aluminum. For example, I made it. This is my novelty. Now I take my wavelet transform. Okay, now after wavelet transform, I want to go for feature extraction. Now I'll just go for neurological disorder. Now this is my neurological disorder. This is my problem. This is my problem. Okay, when you talk about this, wavelet transform, neurological disorder, and everything, my literature survey should define why I have selected this. Here in literature survey, you have to say very clearly the papers or concept should be related to your wavelet transform. It should be in a defending way. What do you mean by defending way? Because already some people have done in wavelet transform and they have solved some problems. Okay, in that way you have to make it. Okay, I think you can able to understand very clearly. Say everything should talk or focus to one point based upon your block diagram, and that is what the reason when you write a paper, the researchers advise to write methodology first. You have to write your methodology first. Okay, before methodology, you have to complete your research. That is very important. Your research has to be completed. Experimental research has to be completed. Your experimental research has to be completed. Then you start writing a paper. In that first stage, you have to write your methodology, and second, you have to write your result and discussion. Okay, and third should be your literature survey, and then you have to go for the introduction. Okay, and finally you have to go for the abstract, and after abstract you have to go for the conclusion. This is how you have to make a paper. Okay, why? Because when you understand that methodology, okay, the results will also talk only about the based upon the methodology. When you write your literature survey based upon those discussions, okay, where you have done, that paper has to be justified. Why I have taken this? That should be justified in literature. That is what the reason after methodology and result you write your literature paper. Okay, because you would have spoke something out, but because in the methodology you would have given much importance to the sensor development. In that case, your literature survey should talk about only about the fabrication of the sensors. In methodology, you are highlighting that you are the neurological disorder. In that case, you have to give much importance to your literature. It only talks about that neurological disorder. When you talk about the neurological disorder, you have to give a differentiation. How far you are different from others, and how far you are taken from others some ideas, and that way you have to make your literature survey. Okay, I think you can understand very clearly how to write your literature survey. Okay, I can make it in a see. I can give it. I can give what I can say. You can. I can say in a very simple way is that I can make a very beautiful simple sentence to understand. You just identify when you talk about that literature survey, it should show a clear. It can give the gap for existing work. It should reflect the gap. It should reflect the gap. Okay, it should give the conflicts. Okay, the literature review should have the conflicts. Okay, that is very important. What is the conflict? What is that? How far somebody is involved in that? What is their effort and what is their effort? And all those things has to be added there. And that is very important. Okay. Yeah, and also you can refer your own research to the context of the existing literature survey. It means that your own research, for example, you can talk about the gap, you can talk about the conflict, and you can talk about the context in which situation, context, okay, context of your existing literature. It is very important. Your context of your, how far you are differentiating yourself from the existing work, that should be highlighted in your literature survey. Okay, that should be very important. Of course, even existing literature, okay, in literature survey, okay, the context, how you differentiate, how you locate yourself in the, from your existing literature survey. Because I can even say that, you know, all those people have done this. They have left a small area which is a very important area and which is not dealt by many people. In that area, I am going to look into that. In that way, you have to make your conclusion of your literature survey. And if you know your methodology and result, then only you can able to make that particular gap in your literature survey. Then you can tune it. See, it's not like that you work on EEG sensor and your literature survey should not talk about ECG sensor, or it should not talk about any other temperature sensor or pressure sensors. No, what is there in your methodology, what is there in the result, and based upon those things, okay, you write your literature survey in order to show the reviewer that how far you are differentiated from your existing work. In that way, you have to put. And the other thing is that in literature survey, you can show you that what is that you have taken from that paper for your research. Next thing is that what is that idea you are taken from others paper, okay, from others paper, and how do you implement it in your work? How do you implement? How do you implement? Implement? Okay, how do you implement in your work? And this way you have to do it. And you cannot say everything you are copied and you are doing that idea. And if you do this entirely thing, no novelty will be there. 50% you have to say that from others work what you have taken, and you can justify that this is the algorithm I have taken because somebody has done, and in that I have tuned this algorithm so that I got a result. In that way you have to make 50% your novelty. Okay, that is that two sections is very important. Is that you have to give your own context on your existing literature. Right, it means that own research within the context. You should locate your own research. You can say that you have to you have to locate. If you want to say it in your wording, locate your own research. Okay, own research idea. Okay, own research idea in the context of existing literature survey. That should be the first part. And second part, everything you cannot say that I have done. Every time you cannot say that only I have implemented. This algorithm belongs to me, and other algorithms is not belonging to me, and it's all my own idea. They won't accept it. In that case, 50% you have to take how you have taken the idea from other papers, and 50% you have to say them how you are differentiating from other literature surveys. That is very important thing when you discuss about literature surveys. Okay. Okay, and you have to understand what is the purpose of your literature review is for. Okay, you have to describe the relation of each work to your others understanding, and that is very important. And identify the new ways to interrupt pre-research. From the literature, you can say that the author has been left out this area, and you can consolidate it. And that consolidation, how you have to represent in your article is that the research gap. You write your literature related work. Okay, you write your related work, and you just have your thematic and your methodological, or you have your chronological order, something like that. But still, at the last paragraph should reveal the gap of the existing papers. So far, these researchers, okay, these researchers worked in this area, fine, and have taken some ideas from them to implement my work. Still, something is left out. Is being taken as my methodology. Okay, this is how you are. What I can say. This is how your way of writing should be. Okay, you have to link your literature survey. I think you can able to understand. You have taken thesis research written in either chronological, methodological order. The last paragraph should say that what are the ideas you have taken from the literature survey. and what is left out in that particular survey, or the researchers are not concentrating in that area, which is very important, that should be highlighted, and that should be linked with your methodology. Here starts your cohesion. Okay, cohesion is that, linking and writing. Okay, cohesion is a way of writing, linking, logically connecting your literature review and methodology. See, this is very important when you do with your literature survey. I think the next thing is that very important thing is that depending upon the situation, evaluate the resource and advise the reader to the most penetrated relevant research. You want to give an idea, and that idea should make them to understand the intellectual progression. When you write your literature survey, the literature survey should understand the reader that there is an intellectual progression. What do you mean intellectual progression? When you talk about intellectual progression, is that it is your intellectual progression. Is that when you talk about intellectual progression, you have to show in years. It should be the later paper should start from latest year. For example, now it is 2020. All maximum paper should be from 2020. It shows that there is an intellectual progression. And sometimes you have to show your intellectual progression based on pictures also. For example, if I'm doing some EEG sensors, I can take n number of EEG sensors, I can put it in the literature survey, I can show as a picture. And no regulations or no restrictions are there. Now you can use wherever you want to show the reviewer to give more elaborate than the text. In that case, you can even put your pictures in your literature survey. Even you can use your pictures in your introduction. Actually, there is no any rules and regulation to have your pictures in your article. See, picture is very important. Okay, diagram is the best tool for an engineer. Engineer's tool is the diagram. Don't try to forget it. See, when to use your diagram in your article. Okay, you can use the diagram anywhere, no restriction. You can use in introduction, you can use in your abstract also. Nowadays, I said no, graphical abstract. Even graph itself they are changing as a graphical abstract. And so nothing is there to put your diagram. It's all with your creativity, not that copying from others' paper. See, try to understand that when you have your text cannot be explained, something cannot be explained, some ideas cannot be framed as text. It means that if I write in text, they may not understand. In that case, and such ideas can be represented as a figures. This is a very basic thumb rule to insert your figures in your journal, and that figures will be in a form of illustration. They call it as illustration. See here, here there are two things are evolving. It is called illustration. The other one is called infographics. Infographics is that all are figures, but still illustration is that diagram which doesn't have any sort of value or metrics. If a diagram has a metrics, if information is there from metrics, and that is called infographics. Illustration is that just to explain elaborately, which I cannot do it in the text, which if I write in the text, the reader will not get that total line of thought, what I thought. In that case, I want to go for your illustration. Illustration is only the diagram. Okay. For illustration, you can say that it's a block diagram comes under illustration. For example, if I'm trying to draw something with what I can say, inner part of your eye or inner part of your brain, and that labels the what I can say organs or the parts or something like that. In that case, that becomes the illustration. If you talk about infographics, infographic is that you are trying to have a histogram, plots, and you have many plots. Of course, that we'll discuss in the next session when we deal with your methodology, because methodology deals with illustration and infographics. I think we'll see our methodology class in the next class. And now I'll just stop here. Thank you very much.